In a quiet town nestled between golden fields and rolling hills, Jake dribbled an old basketball across the cracked pavement of his driveway. His breath made small clouds in the cold evening air, his body aching from hours of practice. But he didn't stop. He couldn't. Each bounce echoed through the silence of the approaching night, a steady rhythm that matched the determination that pulsed through his veins. Jake had a dream: to play professional basketball. It wasn't just a passing wish or a childhood fantasy. It was the fire that burned in his soul, the prospect that kept him up at night. But reality constantly challenged dreams. He wasn't the strongest nor the tallest. He'd been cut from the college team the year before, and despite his relentless training, he was invisible to the scouts who came to watch the others. The pain of rejection had eaten deep into him, whispering doubts that had scratched his confidence. But Jake refused to let them win. He practiced in the cold and rain long after his teammates had gone home. Every missed shot was a lesson. Every failure is a challenge to overcome. His mother, the only family he had, worked long shifts at the local diner to provide for him. She carried their small world on her shoulders, her face weary, but she never let it dim her smile. She was his rock, the quiet strength behind all his efforts. He wanted to make her proud, to give her something more than long nights and tired mornings. He wanted to prove that their sacrifices had mattered. One evening, as the last rays of sunlight tinged the sky amber and purple, his mother stepped outside. She leaned against the porch railing, looking at him with tired but loving eyes. Jake paused, wiping the sweat from his brow. "You work hard," she said, her voice soft but firm. "But do you believe you can do it?" Jake hesitated. He had asked himself that question 1,000 times. I hope so." She smiled softly, understandingly. "Hope is a start," she said. "But belief? That's what changes everything." Her words sank deep into him, stirring something dormant. That night he did something he had never done before. He closed his eyes and pictured it all: the roar of the crowd, the feel of the ball rolling through his fingers, the weight of victory. He didn't just dream. He saw himself as if he could do it. And with that belief in his heart, he trained harder, physically and mentally. He walked taller, spoke confidently, and acted like the player he aspired to be. A week later, fate intervened. The school was hosting an invitational game, and a handful of college scouts were expected to attend for the first time in years. It was a rare opportunity, a fleeting one. He had a choice: play it safe or risk it all. As he stepped onto the field, the nerves threatened to overwhelm him. The gym was packed, the air thick with anticipation. Sweat trickled down his temples, but he paid them no mind. He could hear the whispers, the quiet skepticism of those who had always looked down on him. But then he remembered his mother's words: "Belief changes everything." He took a deep breath and pushed the doubt away. As soon as the whistle blew, he played like a transformed man. Every pass, every shot, every move was executed with the assurance of someone who had always belonged with the best. The world didn't change overnight, but Jake did. The game was brutal, the scoreboard changing constantly. The final period came, and the score was tied. The tension in the gym was suffocating. Then, with only seconds left on the clock, the ball came to Jake. Time seemed to slow down. This was the moment. His moment. He could hear his heart pounding and the gasps of the crowd, but he didn't hesitate. He took the shot. The ball flew through the air, spinning in a perfect arc before it sailed over the net. For a moment, there was silence. The stunned silence before the storm. And then the gym exploded. The crowd erupted in cheers, a deafening roar that shook the walls. His teammates rushed toward him, lifting him off the ground, their voices joining the chaos of cheers. Jake barely registered the sensation of being lifted into the air. His eyes scanned the stands until they found her. His mother stood in the cheering crowd, her hands pressed to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Jake felt something tighten in his chest. He had done it. But amid the excitement, a new energy coursed through his veins, the sense that something was changing, something big. Then, this game. As he dried off in the locker room, the coach approached, his expression unreadable. "Jake," he said, his voice hoarse but tinged with pride. "Someone wants to talk to you." Jake followed him out of the locker room, his heart pounding. Standing in the hallway were two men in college jackets, their postures relaxed but their eyes sharp and appraising. One of them, a scout from a prominent Division I school, held out his hand. "That was a great shot, son," he said, shaking Jake's hand firmly. "We've been keeping an eye on you tonight. You've got something special." Jake swallowed hard. "We want to see more," the scout continued. "There's a showcase next month. The best high school players in the state will be there, and college recruiters from all over the country will be watching. Are you interested?" Jake held his breath. He'd spent years being overlooked, being treated as just another kid with dreams too big for reality. But now, standing in this dimly lit hallway, the weight of years of rejection and struggle weighing down on his shoulders, he realized something. This wasn't just an invitation. It was an open door he'd fought for, a door he'd walk through without hesitation. "Yes," he said, his voice even. "I'm interested." He barely slept that night. The excitement, the possibility, the utter disbelief of it all swirled through his mind. But when morning came, reality settled in. This was just the beginning. The show would be filled with the best of the best. Players with years of experience, better training, and connections he didn't have. He would have to fight harder than he ever had before. And he did. Day after day, he pushed himself past his limits. Before school, after school, and late into the night, he practiced. He refined his footwork, honed his accuracy, and trained his body until every muscle was warm. He studied past performances, analyzed potential opponents, and envisioned every possible scenario. His mother watched silently with pride, her tired eyes filled with something he had never seen before. Hope. The day of the show arrived. The arena was huge, packed with recruiters, scouts, and young players aspiring to a basketball future. Jake felt the moment's weight weighing down on him, but he refused to give in. As he stepped onto the court, he reminded himself of his mother's words. Confidence changes everything. The first game was brutal. The pace was faster than any he'd ever experienced, the level of play ruthless. But he adapted. He found his rhythm and let his instincts take over. He played with an unquenchable fire, executing each move precisely and confidently. By the second game, he was no longer just another player on the court. He was a contender. With every pass, every steal, every well-timed shot, all eyes were on him. The buzz grew louder. The disbelief turned to something else. Recognition. Then came the final game of the day. It was his last chance to prove himself, to show the scouts that he was more than just a one-game phenomenon. The opposing team was stacked with highly ranked recruits and scholarship players, their futures set. But Jake was undeterred. He had spent his life fighting to be noticed and wouldn't let this moment pass. The game was a battle from the start. Sweat trickled down his back as he dodged defenders, and his breathing quickened. The clock ticked down, and the score tied. And then, in the final minutes, it happened. Jake found himself with the ball, just outside the three-point line. The defender before him was taller and more potent, but Jake had something he didn't: determination. He faked left, spun right, and fired as the buzzer sounded. The world held its breath. The ball soared high, curling toward the net. And then, whoosh, the crowd erupted. Recruiters in the stands exchanged glances, nodded, and whispered. Jake stood still for a moment, his chest rising and falling. Then his teammates surrounded him, voices ringing in his ears. But amid the chaos, he looked for one person. His mother stood in the stands, her hand on her chest, her face beaming with pride. After the game, the scouts arrived. One by one, they introduced themselves, each with offers, opportunities, a future he could only imagine. Among them was a recruit from one of the top programs in the country. "We want you," he said. "A full scholarship. You have what it takes, Jake, and we're willing to invest in your future." Jake felt the weight of years of struggle, working nights and silent sacrifices settle into something else. Relief, gratitude, victory. That night, as he sits on the porch with his mother, the stars spread out above them. He sighs. "I did it," she whispers, her voice thick with emotion. He shakes his head, a slow smile spreading across his lips. "We did it." When Jake tells his mother, "We did it," he's not just talking about a scholarship or a victory. He's talking about the journey they've been on together. A journey of faith, of will, of dreams coming true. Lessons learned. Belief is the key to success. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else can do it. Persevere through challenges. No success comes easy. Every failure is a valuable lesson. Family and support are the greatest motivators. Sometimes, a word of encouragement from those you love is enough to change your life. Dare to dream and act. Dreams are not just distant things, but goals that can be achieved if you try your best. So, are you ready to pursue your dreams? Remember, belief and action change everything. Thank you for watching Story Dino channel to discover interesting stories. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next interesting stories. Please share with your friends to spread joy and knowledge together. Wish you a great day and see you in the next videos.